So, greetings, my name is Alfredo Lopez, and I'm doing something that I have actually never done before in my life, which is I'm doing a video on about a book I wrote, something I wrote, which I've been interviewed about articles and books I've written, but I've never actually done a video promoting one. And the reason why I'm doing this is very simply that people who have read my most recent work, which is an extended essay called Karl, Friedrich and Us, had just been published by Entremundo's Publications, felt that it might be a good idea to actually, just in very, very brief form, in a small video like this one, summarize what the book is actually about and why it's useful to read, or it might be useful for you to read and study and use in study groups, etc. And that's the purpose of the book. The book is actually an extended essay, about 60 pages, the purpose of which is to help people actually study Marxism. The reason why I wrote the book and why I became interested in people studying Marxism is because after 60 years of movement practice, I'm 76 years old, I've been in this movement 60 years, I've been working with a lot of people a lot younger than I. Basically, I do multi-generational work almost exclusively, and a lot of the younger people who know a whole bunch more than I do about organizing, about doing the practice of political work, and about a lot of the stuff happening in the world, don't know anything about Marxism. In fact, not only do they not know anything about Marxism, but they reject it out of hand very frequently. They say it may not be relevant to the work that they're doing. And it was curious because I've always felt that it was relevant. In fact, it's the only thing that keeps me understanding what's going on, that keeps me wedded to the political struggle that we're engaged in, and that keeps my sanity, basically, in terms of understanding what's going on. So I felt I was kind of cheating in not sharing this with all of these younger people. So I did an essay on it. I wrote it. And in the book, I essentially take up 6 basic concepts, and I try to show how they apply to the current situation. The basic thing to understand about the book, about my view of Marxism, is that it concentrates on what Karl and Friedrich actually wrote, what Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, in their remarkable collaboration, actually conceived of and developed themselves. Marxism is a whole lot more than that. Marxism is the work of tens of thousands of people, at the very least, probably millions of people if you really take it, if you really try to understand it as it should be understood. In expanding what Marx and Engels actually wrote, but it's helpful to start with what Marx and Engels actually said and wrote, and to try to understand it as they wrote it, and to discard a lot of the mythology and other crap that tends to soil our understanding of Marxism. Phony stuff that's not real. They didn't really say it. It's not really what they were saying. It's a misinterpretation of what they were saying. So I figured I'd boil down Marx and Engels' writing to these six concepts, focusing on one central concept. In understanding Marxism, or talking about Marxism, a lot of people do dwell on their view of capitalism and the economics of the capitalist society, the laws that govern the economy. And that's because the most important work that Marx and Engels did was a 3-volume work. They were the guys that wrote the 3 volumes. It's actually 4 volumes to it written, 4th written by another guy, but they collaborated on these 3 volumes in a masterpiece called Capital. And Capital is about the capitalist system. It's about the economics of the capitalist system. And so people say, well, Marxism is about the economics of the capitalist system. People even go so far as to say there's this young Marx and Engels who wrote about human beings, and then there's this more mature Marx and Engels who wrote about the economy of the human race, and that they're two different groups of people, as if they were like did this transformation. It's important, I think, to discard that myth, and I try to address it. Marx and Engels actually wrote about the same stuff throughout the entirety of their collaboration. And part of it, and a significant part, was the economy, for the following reason. What Marx and Engels were trying to do was to take up the issue of the question of the character of the human species within a society. What actually are we? And the reason why they did that was to try to improve that society. So they knew that people needed to improve our society. What is this thing we call a people? What is people? What are we as human beings? What is the essence of our species? I start with that concept in the book. Something called Gutenswesen, or Gutensweisen, I guess. I don't speak German, but it means species essence. A way of saying that in contemporary sociology would be human nature. But they didn't believe in human nature. That's something different. I explained that here in the book. They had a dialectical vision of it, and species essence is a question that sears through all of their work. Marx and Engels understood that what's unique about people is that we can see tomorrow. We can see the future. No other species on Earth can do that. We have imagination. And all of our lives and our existence in all society in human history, including capitalist society, is a battle, a struggle for the expression of that ability. Oppression is the restriction of our imagination. Liberation is the exercise of the imagination. Now, people are going to fiddle and faddle. I can hear their voices now saying, Marx and Engels didn't write that. Well, yes, they did. Not only did they write it, but every single word that emanated from their collaboration is about that very subject. And that's what this book is about. It's about how, through understanding of the species essence, understanding of how the economy works through the creation of value, understanding of issues like narrative, hegemony, classes, and the base and superstructure, all concepts Marx and Engels left us that fundamentally changed social science, since Marx and Engels are considered among the founders of modern social science. All those concepts rotate around the question of our imagination. If you find that intriguing, or you find it confusing, or you find it total crap, absurd, then I encourage you to buy a copy of the book, read it, let me know what you think of it. My email is in the book for you to respond to. And if you want, I would love it if you sit down with a group of people and use it as the basis for a study. I have, as a matter of fact, in the book, included an afterword, or not an afterword, a final section of questions about the different chapters that allow you, it's called a conclusion, about the different sections of the book that allow you questions that may provoke some discussion and in study group for formats. And so that's my contribution. Karl, Friedrich and Us. There's also a short passage talking about these guys' personalities. It's a remarkable collaboration because these guys were so different in personality and in view of life and just everything about them, that they got together and had such a deep-seated collaboration and such an enormous love for each other. Is one of the triumphs, I think, of human intellectualism. And so I wrote it. It's yours. Enjoy. Keep in touch.